If you are a home coffee roaster who is looking for a way to do small batches at an affordable price, or if you are a home roaster who has a drum roaster like I do, and you're looking for ways to experiment with profiles without breaking the bank, then I may have just found the roaster for you, and I want to share that with you right now, so stick around. All right, thank you for joining me today and welcome to the Virtual Coffee Lab. Many of you are on a budget and you are roasting coffee at home for a couple of reasons. One, it's a hobby and you really enjoy it. The other is that it costs less than going out and buying expensive specialty coffee from a coffee shop or online somewhere and having it shipped to you. So the challenge is, especially if you're on a budget, is to find a roaster that does everything that you want it to do. And one of the things that lacks most of these budget roasters is the ability to control temperature. We're able to do that with a drum roaster and many other coffee roasters, but things like hot air popcorn poppers or frying pans, it's very difficult to monitor and control temperatures. Even some of these cooking devices that have been converted for roasting, where you have basically an electric frying pan that has a wand that spins around and it's moving the beans. I mean, those will take 20 minutes to roast coffee, and that's way too long. If you're looking for flavor, you're looking for some of the characteristics from the bean, you're going to want to have a shorter roast. And I've been on a quest to find a good roaster for an entry-level person. And I found it. I think I really have found it. And I want to introduce it to you right now. It's the Hive Roaster. I have seen this online. There are reviews out there, so some of you may have seen this already. This is, it looks like something you'd make popcorn in, but it is really much different. If you take a look at this, this is a handmade coffee roasting device. This was made in a press. I've been in a lot of factories. I know a little bit about heavy equipment, and this was made with a press that pushes down a sheet of stainless steel, and it makes this shape. You'll notice these bumps or these ridges, they're there intentionally because we want those beans, when we move this roaster around, we want those beans to tumble rather than just slide around in a circle. We want that because we don't want hot spots on the beans. We don't want roasting defects on the beans. We want the beans to be roasted evenly. And with this roaster, you're going to be roasting these with a conduction style heat. So conduction is where beans are touching a hot surface and heat is being transferred. There is some convection with this where air is involved, heated air that's going to roast this coffee. While we're roasting, we have air that is coming up from underneath and it is coming into the roaster and it is moving around. And so we do have some convection going on with this roaster. This is going to allow us to roast coffee evenly, and we can have a great roast in under 10 minutes on this roaster. And this video that you're going to be seeing here in just a minute shows that. It goes step by step what I experienced when I roasted this coffee. So this is the least expensive version, $70 for this. This is what you get. The lid comes off really easily. You roast your coffee in this, 6 ounces at a time is the max, and when you're done, you just turn it over and the beans will fall out of the hole into whatever it is you're going to cool. I ordered the digital version of this, and it's $145. And the difference is that it comes with a different lid with a probe in there, and the probe is going to send the temperature of the beans to this device, a digital display that sits right next to where you're roasting, so you're able to monitor your temperatures while you're roasting this coffee. That is a really cool thing. That's a great thing to be able to do. There's another version of this if you want to take it to the next level, where you can hook this up to Artisan and you can be roasting coffee and saving profiles. You can be doing that with their digital version that is $185. That's still a great value. For under $200, you can be roasting coffee using Artisan, which is a free data logging software, and you can be experimenting with different roast profiles. Now, the truth is that you can do that with this as well, or even without this, using just the standard version. You can be experimenting with profiles, but it's going to be much more difficult for you to log the information with the bare bones version. This digital version that I have here, I wrote down the temperatures and the times, and I put it out on a graph so that I could see what happened with my roast. So this would be well enough for me if I was on a budget and I didn't want to spend the other $40 to be able to hook it up to Artisan. So keep that in mind. HiveRoasters.com is where you can check this out. Matt sends a box to you, and this is all a what I would call a grassroots business. Matt has developed this product. He has built prototypes, and now he is having this made in a factory somewhere for him. The quality is very good. Stamping quality is very good. I found no real sharp edges on this. I mean, stainless steel, when you cut stainless steel, it's as sharp as a razor. You've got to be very careful. This seems to have been manufactured well so that you aren't going to slice yourself open, but it is a piece of commercial equipment, and you're going to want to be careful while you're using it anyway. All right, so I want to talk to you about my roasting experience, but before I do that, I want to thank you guys for watching this video. Subscribe to my channel if you are not a subscriber. That is the best thing that you can do to help me build this channel. I put a poll out there on my community tab asking what coffee roaster you are using. I'm learning from you so that I can craft great content. So if you haven't completed that poll, please do that. Go to my community tab on my YouTube channel and vote. That would really help me out. All right, truthfully, I've already used this roaster once, and I did that because the instructions asked me to season the roaster. They wanted me to roast some coffee in this roaster so that I could get the manufacturing oils out, and so that I could season the stainless steel so that I could get a better roast when I start roasting the coffee. And so that's what I did. My very first roast, I didn't really even focus a lot on trying to hit a certain profile, although I did pay attention to see how the roaster performed and its temperatures and such. But this roast that's in this video is my second roast. Now, my goal is for this roast is to have a 50% dry time or something close to that, preferably a little less, but about 50%. And then the next phase of my roasting, going from brown, when we go from a yellow, when it goes from green to yellow, at that point to first crack is the browning stage. And I want that to be about 30% of the roast, so that's going to be about 3 minutes. And then I'm going to do a 2-minute development on this. 20% of the total roast time is going to be development. So that's what my goal was, and I followed that. I was able to follow that with these times and temperatures, as you're going to see here in this roast. So as the video is playing, I just want to share with you, I want to highlight a few things that happened. First, I pre-warmed the roaster. I used a wash towel because I had the lid on at one point, and wrapped my finger around it, put my finger in the hole of the top lid to pull it out, because this gets hot. And I've seen people where they'll just pour the beans directly into the hole. I didn't have a funnel to do that, and I didn't want to spill the beans all over the place. So put my finger in there with a towel around it, popped this off, poured the beans in, put it back down, and I'm roasting 6 ounces of green coffee. That is the maximum limit that they suggest at Hive Roasters, and what Matt suggests, and that's what I followed. 170 grams, which is 6 ounces. That's really good for those that are roasting on a Beamore That's what a lot of you are roasting, 6 to 8 ounces of coffee on a hot air popcorn popper. This is roasting more coffee than your hot air popcorn popper is. And honestly, it's going to do a better job. So if you're tired of roasting on the popper and, gosh, it seems like you're only able to get 1 or 2 servings out of that roast, then the Hive Roaster would probably be a great option for you, and it's going to give you the ability to take a step up and learn a little bit more because you're able to control more of the roasting variables than you would on a hot air popcorn popper. And same with the frying pan, people. One of your biggest problems is scorching, roasting defects, and just getting an even roast. This is going to be able to do that for you, and honestly, $70 isn't too bad. All right, so looking at this roast, we get to the dry end at 5 minutes, just as I hoped. I intentionally took the roaster that was on the cooktop and I elevated it just a little bit so that I would be able to slow my roast down. I elevated it a little bit too much in the beginning, but quickly brought it back down. So I didn't quite stall my roast, but I definitely slowed my roast down. And then I brought the Hive Roaster back down a little bit lower again, kept moving. And I was able to get to first crack in 8 minutes. As a matter of fact, it was almost exactly 8 minutes when I hit first crack. And then I had a 2-minute development time. So the coffee continued to crack as I was moving the roaster along the way. As soon as I reached the 20% development, quickly went into a bowl by simply taking the roaster, tipping it upside down, and the beans come out of the hole on the top of the roaster into the bowl. Started moving the bowl around, blowing in the bowl to try to cool the beans. Beans will continue to roast until you get them to cool down enough, and you want to do whatever you can to get those beans cooled down quick. One of the things I noticed about this roaster was, and you noticed in the video, that chaff would float out of the roaster and you could see it kind of incinerate as it went up. There was not a lot of chaff mess with this roaster. I had a little bit of chaff come out of the roaster, but not as much as the Nuvo roaster. So I was really happy about that. When I poured the beans into the bowl, I noticed that there was some burnt chaff that went out into the bowl as well. And so I ended up taking the bowl outside, blowing on it, and getting that loose chaff to just get out of the beans, so I wouldn't be drinking that coffee. And it worked. It was really a good result. So now comes the tasting. I roasted this coffee. 2 days later, I brewed it and drank it. The taste showed me more or less what I expected from my roast profile. So I made the dry time, no problem at all, 5 minutes. And then the browning phase of 3 minutes. If I would have slowed the heat down maybe just a little bit more and allowed a little bit more time for the browning phase, I probably could have got a little more sweetness out of the cup. There was an underlying sweetness. I did have the acidity. There was no tartness. It was not a tart bomb. So my middle phase was not too short. I did have a little bit of an issue with the temperature in the beginning of my browning phase there, where the temperatures dropped a little bit more than I wanted them to, but I think I recovered quickly enough where it didn't influence the flavor profile because it was kind of early in that stage, and I did have enough browning phase time for those reactions to take place, the caramelization and the acidity to do their thing and develop in this browning phase, this middle phase. So the part that I would have changed would have been to have a shorter development phase. I went the full 20%, and I think that I could have done a really interesting roast if I would have gone about 15 or 14% on this coffee. There was a little bit of a roastiness. It was not burned, but I think that I sacrificed that in the development. I think that I lost a little bit of the flavor of the origin with the longer development. So I again, that's this coffee. It's very difficult coffee to roast. I've only done a good roast a couple of times with that. But the Hive Roaster got really, really close. It did a really good job. And again, this was only my second time using the roaster, only my first legitimate roast on it. And I was very impressed. The roast is, the consistency is amazing on this roast. Very happy with that. You can see for yourself. You can see, and I mentioned this in a couple videos ago, you can notice the coffee has a little bit of a red hue. That's because it is a honey processed coffee. And again, I wish I would have had less development, but I wanted to kind of follow my first time 30 or 50% dry, 30% browning, 20% development, and to see how that tastes. So the next time I roast with this, and there will be a next time, I'm going to do 50, probably 35% for my brown phase, and then 15% for my development on that coffee, and I think I'll be really, really happy. So I would say that this is a win. I would say that this is a recommendation for those that are on a budget and they want to roast with a digital connection. I would say save up the money, spend the $185, and you will be able to roast in smaller batches, larger batches. You'll be able to play around with roast profiles, and that this would be a decent roaster to do that. The quality of the workmanship is definitely decent. It's definitely good quality. This is not some cheap device that is going to just crack or break. The Nuvo roaster was definitely fragile, being ceramic. This is quality stainless steel with a longer handle that I didn't burn my hand with. The Nuvo roaster, man, my hand was so hot. This handle is long enough where you're not going to burn your hand, and I would highly recommend you guys to give this a shot if you're interested in looking for a manual hand roaster. All right, those are my thoughts on the Hive Roaster. I'll have the links in the description. I'll also have links to a couple of, at least Matt's Instagram page, which has all of his different roasts that he's done with this. If you go to the video section of Instagram, if you're an Instagram person, check those out. And yeah, I would highly recommend this roaster. So my question to you is, do you have a Hive? I know there's a few of you because you've told me you've had Hives or you've used a Hive. So my question is, Hive Roaster people, share your comments. Have you been able to get some great roasts out of this roaster? And what have you found is the best way to roast coffee using the Hive Roaster? Please share those comments. Also, you guys, again, take the poll that I mentioned to you. That really helps me out with the content. And I hope you guys have a great week roasting. Thanks for joining me.